Welcome to Resume the Podcast. I'm your host, Courtney Page, and I'm here to spread the message that you can, in fact, be happy in your career. I'm a former executive recruiter turned career coach, and I am obsessed with learning about why people have chosen their career, what led them to that decision, and how they achieved happiness in the process. So, come join the ongoing conversation that exposes you to career paths of all origins with one thing in common: happiness. So, press play and let's resume the conversation with this week's episode. Hey guys, this is Courtney Page. I am your host, and today we're doing a quick little solo episode all about mindful leadership. As you might know, I am an executive coach. I used to do executive recruiting, and I still do that sometimes. And I teach yoga, and I love fusing together all of the teachings of yoga into executive coaching because it can get pretty austere in executive coaching and executive corporate America. And I think blending in some of the wisdom of yoga and Buddhism and Eastern philosophies can be incredibly useful when you're dealing, and not just dealing, but when you're living a really high stress life as a, upper level executive or manager. So today we're talking all about mindful leadership for those who are currently in leadership positions or those who are hoping to be in a leadership position someday soon or someday well into the future. If you're just starting out in your career, this is still such an amazing episode for you to listen to, because understanding our own leadership style really starts at the beginning of your career. Learning how to deal with people, learning how to deal with conflict, learning how to really keep things going on an even keel and have people just generally like working with you, all rolls in to how you lead. So today we're talking about mindful leadership. So I think we should start just by kind of defining what mindfulness is, which might seem obvious to you. However, there is an actual definition for it. And I'm pulling this definition from Jon Kabat-Zinn, who's like the grandfather, father, whatever you want to call him, of mindfulness. And he defines it as mindfulness is awareness that arises through paying attention on purpose in the present moment, non-judgmentally. So let's break that down. Mindfulness is awareness that arises through paying attention. So you're consciously paying attention. You're paying attention on purpose in the moment that you're in currently, not what just happened 2 seconds ago and not what might happen in the future in 2 seconds or 2 years, in the present moment without judging it. So a little easier said than done for most of us, but that's what mindfulness is. So how do we layer that into our leadership style? So integrating mindfulness into our leadership style can transform not just the workplaces, but also our personal lives. So whether you're a seasoned leader or aspiring to be one, understanding the power of presence, empathy, and self-awareness in leadership can make such a profound difference. So here we go. Let's get into it. Let's start with awareness. So self-awareness, absolutely such a key role in mindfulness. It's in the definition. And it's really just about recognizing your own emotions and thoughts and seeing how these impact your team and you. Because, emotions, energy, all of that is contagious. Energy is so contagious. Have you ever noticed when you walk into a room and something seems like off? Everybody has done this. And some people are more attuned to this than others, and that's not good or bad. It's just how we are, how some people are. But you can pick up on the energy in a room pretty quick, right? So if you're about to go in and see a stand-up comic, right? Everyone's probably like in an uplifted mood already. Like they're expecting to laugh. They're expecting to have a good time. And so you go in with this certain type of energy, this kind of like, kinetic, really excitable energy that's like higher, right? High vibe. And let's say on the flip side, you're going in to see like a really dramatic movie. I'm just thinking the first one that came to mind was Zero Dark 30. When I went into that theater to see Zero Dark 30, it was like nobody was talking. Everybody knew what the movie was about. They hadn't seen it yet, but there was definitely this kind of heavy energy in the air. So being able to recognize your own emotions and thoughts and energy will really help you see how you impact and how your energy impacts your team. So how do we do that? You might find it really helpful to meditate. If you're not into meditating, journaling. If you're not into journaling, just taking a regular time to reflect. So whether that's like 5 minutes before you go into work, sitting in your car, or if you work remotely, 5 minutes before opening up your computer to just think about what's going on for the day, or think about nothing, which is also meditating. So taking some time out of your day on a regular basis, preferably at the same time, to just reflect on like what is going on, how you feel, and how that might affect your team. The other very, very crucial skill is listening. So listening skills, very, very, very important. And this means really hearing what other people are saying and not just waiting for your turn to speak, which can be really difficult, especially if you are a really high energy person. If you're in a leadership role, that's probably, you're probably relatively high energy, and it can be really, really hard to like wait your turn to speak, which sounds very elementary. Like we went over this in elementary school. We all have to take our turn. However, when you're fired up about something, when when the stakes are high, it can be really difficult to do that. So taking a breath and waiting and paying attention, not just to words, but also like the nonverbal cues, and making sure that you're fully present in those conversations will help you lead. It will help your team feel heard. Everybody likes to be heard. Everybody likes to say their piece. That's why it's so hard to wait our turn to talk, because we want to be heard, right? But without actively listening, people, first of all, know when you're not actively listening through nonverbal cues. And when you are actively listening, that connection builds trust. And one of the paramount and one of the most important aspects of leadership is your team having trust in you. Okay, moving on. Creating a culture of presence can make a huge difference. So this really just means like starting meetings off with a moment, like just a moment of silence, which sounds really heavy, but it's not. Just a moment to let everybody just settle in and ground themselves in where they are physically, mentally, emotionally. And I mean, have you ever noticed when you walk into a meeting and you sit down and the person who's running the meeting kind of starts, but everyone's still kind of just like fidgeting in their seat. Someone's like writing down a quick note. Someone just turns their phone on silent, isn't really looking, and looks up, and everyone's just fidgeting, swiveling, tapping their toe, like whatever it is. It's really distracting. It's distracting for everybody. It's definitely distracting for the person who's leading the meeting. And taking just a moment at the beginning of this meeting or any meeting can really, really help people ground into where they are, because we're so busy. We're so busy that we rarely get a moment in the day to do that. So giving your team this moment is it's like a gift. I know that sounds so cheesy, but it is kind of like a gift, right? I mean, wouldn't it be nice just to have like a moment of silence for yourself? It would be so nice. So let your team have that. Okay, moving on. Empathy is another super, super big deal. We've heard a lot about empathy, I think, over the last, year or two. At least I have. I don't know. Maybe that's just what's coming up in the algorithm for me. But empathy is really just putting yourself in your team member's shoes, right? You were there once. You weren't always a leader. So put the ego aside. And I mean that kindly. We all have to struggle with that sometimes. But understanding their perspectives and feelings can really help solve problems. So being able to do that effectively, 1, makes you more likable. 2, it fosters a more supportive atmosphere. And 3, it will help with the overall feeling of the company. I mean, having that psychologically safe space to be able to be heard and know that your boss is kind of gets it, understands where you're coming from. That's a huge thing for team members. So keep that in mind. Leading by example also, we were taught this way back when, right? Leading by example, show your team what mindfulness looks like in action. So manage your stress openly, respond thoughtfully, and be consistent in your actions. Open communication, so important. So make sure everybody feels comfortable giving and receiving feedback. It's all about creating a space where all voices are heard and respected. And this is what I was talking about with a safe, psychologically safe space. So basically, being able to speak up without the fear of being embarrassed or humiliated, that's a psychologically safe space. So it could be a very junior employee who might typically not want to speak up because they're so junior, but allowing and creating a space where somebody who is new feels comfortable giving some feedback or, brainstorming some new ideas, whatever it may be, creating this space where people feel really, really secure is so incredible for you and for everybody in the team. Regular check-ins also help keep the lines of communication open. Those could be one-on-ones. Those are a great opportunity to connect on a deeper level and understand what your team might need, or it could just be a big team meeting. And mindfulness training, by the way, not just for you, your team can benefit so much. It can benefit enormously from learning about practicing mindfulness together. So maybe bringing in a trainer to organize a workshop to help everybody get on board and understand, like, what does mindfulness look like on a day-to-day basis in an office? Like, that seems like something that is really just for a yoga studio. Like, how do we even do that when the phones are ringing off the hook? Bring in a trainer or organizer. I do this. So you could do that. You could bring somebody in to really, really help you understand how to implement some mindfulness practices in your office. Also, and I think I mentioned this earlier, but just taking a pause before deciding can really help lead to better outcomes. Sometimes, when stakes are high, we can really give into that knee-jerk reaction, which is understandable. But taking just a moment in between the catalyst and the reaction, taking that moment can make all the difference between a good decision and a bad decision. And it's really hard to do, but all you have to do is breathe. It's like the one thing that we are born doing. Just take a moment and breathe. Last point, promoting work-life balance. Obviously, we've heard so much about this, especially post-COVID, where people really want to keep working from home and employers are either for it or they might not be for it. It's a very controversial topic. In any case, promoting work-life balance, it really shows that you care about your team and not just your team as workers, but as actual people who have lives and are probably at work mainly for, some type of personal fulfillment, but also because they need the paycheck. Like, let's be serious. So understanding that your team members are people and they have things going on in their life, allow them that work-life balance, allow them time to disconnect, offer flexible schedules, and support activities that can enrich their lives outside of work. So implementing, actually, I want to go back to that. So, you don't have to be best friends with the people you work with, but I will say that one of the reasons people will stay in a job longer, one of the main reasons that people will stay in a job longer is because they have a really good friend that they work with and they look forward to seeing that person every day and continuing that relationship. So enriching people's lives outside of work and supporting activities within the office and allowing people to cultivate those relationships between coworkers, so important. You could keep an employee because of that. Implementing these ideas can really, 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 really help you cultivate a leadership style that's not only effective, but truly respected and appreciated. So thank you for joining us today. Super quick little episode for you. I hope it's helpful. Enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you so much. We'll see you next week. Bye. Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode. I'm so grateful for your precious time and energy. And if anything resonated with you, please feel free to share with a friend and subscribe. If you're interested in career coaching, I would love to hear from you. Email me at Courtney@resume-careers.com and follow me on Instagram at Courtney Austin Page. Thank you so much and see you next week.